have made and the freedoms we enjoy because of them. Thank you very much for being with us for this very special day of remembrance today.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine, the white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
Focus better.
Heal better.
Sleep better.
Partner better.
Create better.
Love better.
Breathe better.
Learn better.
Laugh better. Lead better.
Think better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Happy better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Color party, by the left, quick, march! Oh. Second division! Hold! Hold! Right, please! Hold! Shoulder to shoulder dressing. Right, dress. Move back. Yes, move it. Okay, veteran, move back a bit. Move back a little bit. Veteran. Move back. Forcers. Bring him up. Come on. All the way down. Come on. Right. Up. Keep her coming. Keep her coming. Right about there is good. Keep it going to the back. Parade, line, front. Color Sergeant, march on instead of top colors. Party. Oh. Inward, turn. Parade. Stand at ease. Stand easy. The parade is yours, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. On behalf of the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 147, I welcome our Silver Cross mother, Mrs. Beth Mackay, and her husband, Fred Mackay, Member of Federal Parliament, John Broussard, Member of Provincial Parliament, Doug Downey. Is Doug here today? Oh, there he is. Mayor Alex Nuttall from the City of Barrie, from the town of Innisfil, Deputy Mayor Kenneth Fowler, and representing the Township of Springwater, World War II veteran Alan Johnson. Representatives from the Canadian Armed Forces Base Borden and the Grey and Simcoe Foresters, and honorary colonels in attendance. A special welcome to Mr. Bill Snow, World War II veteran, 101 years old. It's already been mentioned, but boy, you can mention that again. And to Korean veteran, retired General John Hayter, World War II and Korean veteran George Ferris, 95 years young, and World War II veteran Shirley Toro Freilich, 97, and Alan Johnson, 98. Don't we all feel young among them? Boy, thank you all for being here. And to all our veterans in attendance and on parade, for all who join us here today in the remembrance of those who served our country so many years ago and gave us the freedom that we have today. We are here to remember as well those whose lives were and are forever changed by the experience of war. Just a warning so that the children don't get scared. There will be a firing party during the ceremony, but they will be firing blanks, and even so they're not pointed towards us anyways, but the noise may startle you.
Mr. MC? Parade, attention!
My name is Bob George, and together with Steve Glover, Public Relations Officer of the Barrie Legion, we will be your masters of ceremony today. Please stand if you're able for the singing. Oh, excuse me.
To the Deputy Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Wong, 16 Wing. General salute, salute.
Please stand if you are able for the singing of our national anthem. Today it will be sung by retired Barrie firefighter Judy Middleton. Oops, is that trip necessary?
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We now call upon Lieutenant Colonel Wong, 16 Deputy Commander, for his address.
Parade, stand at ease. Stand easy.
Good day, everyone, distinguished guests. It's an honor to be here to represent the veterans today. And I often hear that. I often hear that at speeches. You always hear someone say, it's an honor to be here today. The question is why? Why is it an honor? And for me, it's because these veterans that you see before you are showing a great deal of grace, dignity, and respect. Now, when you look at life itself, and you look at the situations you've been put in, when you win, it's easy to show grace, dignity, and respect. It's easy when you win a game and look at the other team and you say, oh, we won, but they did a great job too. It's something else when you've suffered loss. It's something else when you've lost your mental health, your physical health. You've lost a son or a daughter, sister, brother, father, mother, friend. When you've suffered that loss and you still can be the personification of dignity, grace, and respect, that is incredible. And that is why it's an honor to be here to represent the veterans today. Moving on to our military members. I say to you, per ardua ad astra, through adversity to the stars. Next year will be the 100-year anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. There will be celebrations throughout Canada throughout the entire year, but nowhere is it more important than right here in Barrie, right in your neighborhood, because here is where the birthplace of the RCAF. Here is the birthplace of the RCAF. Here is where it all started. We'll be having a museum opening, we'll be having a monument unveiling, and a centennial homecoming dinner. I hope you will join us in that celebration. I'm very proud to be a member of the military, and I often get asked that question, why? Why did I join? Well, my mother and father owned a restaurant just down the road, Thornbury, Ontario. And I remember being a kid, 5 or 6 years old, walking into the restaurant, and I saw some military members come in. And they were all so different. Men, women, different races, different religions, all working together for the greater good. And I thought, maybe I could do that too. Maybe I could become part of that and do something special. Now, the Canadian Armed Forces, fire services, the police service, we aren't perfect. We aren't the ideal organization. But we strive to be. And I believe that we could be. For everyone else, the citizens of Barrie and the neighboring areas that are here today to attend this ceremony, I just wanted to mention a story about my son. My son the other day, he said to me, "Dad, what's the point of it all? Look at us in this world right now. Climate change, greenhouse gas effect, wars, racism, companies that are more about profit and greed than looking after people. What is the point of it all?" And to that, I have to say, Walt Whitman. Let's talk about Walt Whitman, a great poet who once said, "O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the cities filled with the foolish, of the trains filled with the faithless, what good amidst this, O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be? When I look at the veterans here and their families, they've given their verse, and it was a damn good one. I hope that we will do you proud and do something with our verse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Well spoken. Now call upon Mr. Mike Pinyansky on behalf of the Ukrainian War Veterans of Canada. We don't rehearse this, folks. It's live.
Dear veterans, serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces, government and community leaders and guests, during World War II, over 40,000 men and women of Ukrainian descent served in the Canadian Armed Forces. 625 days ago, on February 24th, 2020, the Russian Federation launched a violent invasion of Ukraine, its second military attempt to dominate Ukraine in the 21st century. Approximately 70,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed since the invasion, and over 100,000 wounded. The men and women of the armed forces of Ukraine are in the front lines of defending the free world from the erosion of the international order. The very order that countries such as Canada have come to rely on to ensure peace, stability, and protection of their own sovereignty. The Canadian Armed Forces are playing a significant role in aiding Ukraine and fortifying Eastern Europe. Canadian troops have redeployed under Operation Unifier to the United Kingdom, Poland, and Latvia to mentor and train Ukrainian forces. To date, CAF has trained over 38,000 Ukrainians in battlefield tactics and advanced military skills. Since March of 2022, Canada has welcomed close to 165,000 Ukrainians who have fled the war. Some of those are here with us today. The world must never forget what Ukrainian soldiers are fighting for, and we must never forget the sacrifices made by all soldiers defending democracy and security in the free world. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you. Thank you, Canada, for your support of Ukraine. And thank you, members of the Canadian Armed Forces, for your dedication and expertise in Operation Unifier. We will remember.
I now call upon retired Lieutenant Colonel Bill Sargent to read In Flanders Fields.
Good morning. It would have been a day like this in Flanders Fields when John McCrae buried one of his closest friends, and that action inspired him to write this poem. He was heartbroken, and you can feel the words, and he did it on the back of a cigarette package. And he just thought, I just need to express myself. And this would not have seen the light of day if someone had not found that piece of paper and sent it in to Punch. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up the quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, Bill. I now call upon Padre Ken to lead us in prayer.
Parade! For those who wish to do so, remove headdress.
Almighty God, on this day dedicated to the remembrance of those who served and gave their lives in honor of their country, we thank you for their dedication and pray that you will remain with them all the days of their lives. We commend to you your gracious care and keeping, all the men and women of our current armed forces at home and those abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials and temptations. Give them courage to face the perils which beset them, and grant them a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Parade! Replay! Headrest! Stand at ease!
Thank you, Padre.
Stand easy!
We will now proceed with the laying of the wreath by our Silver Cross mother, Mrs. Beth Mackay, accompanied by her husband, Fred Mackay, and the parade marshal, Fern Tyfair, in honor of Kevin Mackay, who served with the 1st Battalion of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, the PPCLI. Oh, yeah. Those that are on parade that will be laying wreaths, please fall out now. We're going to sing till 11 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have another song by our young choir.
Start with the laying of the wreath again. On behalf of the Governor of Canada, Member of Parliament John Brassard, and representing MP Doug Shipley, Aaron Dickens. and the Province of Ontario, MP Doug Downey. Yes, sorry about that. He goes up, he goes up. Yeah. Representing the city of Barrie, Mayor Alex Nuttall, the town of Innisfil, Deputy Mayor Kenneth Fowler, the township of Springwater, Gary, and World War II veteran Alan Johnston. Representing the Canadian Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Wong and Squadron Warrant Officer Hennessy, and the Grey and Simcoe Foresters, Lieutenant Colonel Lacroix and Chief Warrant Officer Hood.
On this day of remembrance, on this day of remembrance, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we are calling on all assembled here to pause and pay silent tribute to the service of the many Canadians who paid the supreme sacrifice for our country by observing 2 minutes of silence. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. We will have the last post followed by 2 minutes of silence, the lament, there will be a volley fire, and the reveille. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them. We were scheduled to have a fly past, and if they do, we will announce who's flying them. But please be seated now, ladies and gentlemen. We'll continue with the laying of the wreath.
Coming down. Turning around. It's there, but we're missing one.
So we do have one plane over here from a distance. You can see it from the Eden Vale. It's the Cornell aircraft flown by Larry Arnold, Tiger Moth flown by Brian Hope, and we'd like to thank the Edenvale Classic Foundation for the flyby today. All right. With the laying of the wreaths. All right. Representing the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 147, First Vice Fern Tyfair, and Second Vice Tim Shaughnessy. And the Branch 147 Ladies Auxiliary, President Bonnie Whitnell. Representing 441 Wing, Bill Sargent, Lieutenant Colonel, retired, and Wally Capsticks. The Army Navy Air Force, President Buck Robinson. And the Veteran Club of Barrie, President Bob George. And Paul Peary. Here is the flyby. Representing the Korea Veterans Association, General John Hayter. The Canadian Peacekeeping Association, President Fern Tyfair, and National Vice President Bob George. And representing the Canadian Airborne Forces Association, President Jerry Robertson and David Boyd. Representing the RCMP, Inspector Freeman Swayze. The Ontario Provincial Police, Staff Sergeant Randy Mason and Sergeant Tracy Bosch. the Barrie City Police, Chief Rich Johnston, and the Barrie Fire and Emergency Services, Chief Corey Mainprize. Representing the Royal Canadian Sea Cadets, Lieutenant Robert Leduc. The Navy League Cadet Corps Chambly, Lieutenant John Warda. And the Navy League of Canada, Diane Chislett and Petty Officer Second Class Ross. Representing the Royal Canadian Army Cadets, Captain Alan Willoughby and Chief Warrant Officer Abigail Powell, and the 102nd Barrie Silver Fox Air Cadets Squadron, Captain Barry Paul and Warrant Officer Second Class Andrew Erb. Representing the Hong Kong Veteran Association in memory of Leo Berard, daughter Victoria Lauder, and granddaughter Victoria Skiro. And the Canadian Naval Memorial, Dave Aspen and Dominic Turcott. Representing the Commissioners Great Lakes, Tony Keene and Diane Keene. And the Barrie Professional Firefighter Association, Mr. Kevin White. Representing the Knights of Columbus, Barrie Council 1626, the Catholic Women's League, Al and Mary McLeod. And the Knights of Columbus, J.J. Murphy Assembly 2020, Sir Knight Roy Hagan, and District 2 Marshal Sir Knight Paul Rosario. Representing the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre, President and CEO Gail Hunt. The Barrie Chamber of Commerce, Paul Markle. And the Knowles Wolsey team, Kimberly Roundtree. Representing the Kiwanis Club of Barrie, Doug McDermott, and the Lions Club of Barrie, Gord Stanich, Byron McClellan, and Vicky McMillan. Representing the Corinthian Masonic Lodge number 96, Mr. Rob Warren. The Barrie British Club, Barbara McCary. The Ukrainian Culture Center, Yula Shudra and sons Ivan Pavlo and Christina and daughter Zlata. And the Polish Alliance of Canada Branch 43, Adam Domarski. Representing Scouts Canada, Greg Peach, and the Marshall Driver Cremation Services, Melody Somerville. Representing Maverick Donuts Barrie, Camden Scott. The LME Networking, also Camden Scott. And the Mariam Mosque AMJ, Atta and Junaid, the president of the chapter. In memory of Al Zaba, Heather Zaba, and in memory of Bob Middlemiss, Michaela Jacoby, and Bill Sargent. memory of Douglas Shaughnessy, Tim Shaughnessy, Sandy Cumming, and great-grandson Levi Cumming. In memory of Cyril K.G. Vera, Robert, John, and Heather Vera. And in loving memory of Frank Tescona, Military Medal, Queen's Own Rifles, Wayne Tescona. In memory of Master Warrant Officer retired Rob Warman, 441 Wing Chair Bill Sargent, and Michaela Jacoby. In memory of Private Clifford Moore, Mr. Peter Moore, and in loving memory of Harry and Gordon Hobbs, Mr. Wayne Hobbs. In memory of Private Don Perry and Captain Bob Perry, Donna Houston, and the Salvation Army, Major Bruce Sharan. And in memory of Corrado Ciancino, World War II veteran, and in memory of Venerando Ciancino, World War I veteran, Venerando, Giuseppe, Rosa, Alex, and Anthony Ciancino.
That concludes the laying of the wreaths, and I'll call upon Padre Ken for the benediction.
Almighty God, we thank you for the gifts that you have given to us. On this day, we especially thank you for all those who served, those who are serving, and we ask your blessing upon all of us that are gathered here this day, giving thanks for the freedoms that we have. We ask this in your holy and blessed name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the singing of God Save the King.
God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Thank you, Judy. Please remain standing for the departure of Lieutenant Colonel Wong.
To Lieutenant Colonel Wong, 16 Wing Deputy Commander. General salute, salute.
Lieutenant Colonel Wong will be taking his position at the bottom of the cenotaph for the march past. Please, folks, if you would leave the route clear for the parade to go back to its forming up point. Don't interfere with their marching. I'd appreciate it. This concludes.
March off the cenotaph colors. Cenotaph party. Fall in. Quick march.
This concludes our ceremony. All spectators are invited to attend the Legion for reception, also the Army Navy Air Force Club and the Armories. Parade Marshal, the parade is yours.
Thank you, sir. Parade will march past in column of route. Move to the right in column of route. Right turn.
regimental museum.
Yes. In fact, that armory, the Mulcaster Street Armory, the regiment moved there in right after the Riel Rebellion, Northwest Rebellion in 1885. It was a gift from the community to the unit for its service out west. And this land, though, was donated to Queen Victoria for the regiment back in 1867. So it had an earlier drill shed built on it, much like a barn at a fairground, but at some point it burned down. I think it was around 1878, somewhere in around there, and never replaced. And so the Mulcaster Street Armory was built. So in the First World War, in the fall of 1915, the 35th Simcoes are still down on Mulcaster Street, and the new armories is available for a battalion from the Canadian Expeditionary Force. So the 1st Battalion that moved in here that fall, well, the building was still being built. The builders and the soldiers worked around one another, was the 76th Battalion, which is perpetuated by the Lawrence Scotts out of Brampton.
Peel, Dufferin, and Holton.
Exactly.
Right.
Because they had the commanding officer that created the 76. Now after the 76 left, then the 157 Simcoes were raised, and they were in here.
And the 76th Battalion, when they were here, they overwintered in Simcoe County.
Yes.
They were a common sight on doing route marches. They took part in sports events in the local community. Several of them, I understand, died over that winter. I don't know what they died of, but a couple of them died in the old Royal Victoria Hospital. And they had a 13-year-old boy as a bugler. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And he even went to England with them. But he didn't make it to the front, which is probably a good thing.
Good thing.
So those battalions in the First World War were between 1,000 and 1,100 men. They were not all in this building, really, surely.
No, they weren't. In fact, the building is actually a company-size armory. So B Company of the 157th was garrisoned here in the early part of 1916 after the 76th Battalion left. But the 76th, the 157 Simcoe Foresters, the 177 Simcoe Foresters were all around 1,100 men, and they had to be spread around the county. So we had an armory here in Barrie, this one. There was also one in Aurelia. There was one in Collingwood, where A Company was from. C Company was the one out of Aurelia. So they were spread around the county, and so they weren't all in one place at one time until they went to Borden to train in the summer of '16, and then went overseas that fall.
So, and I remember myself that when I joined the regiment in the 1960s, we had 3 locations. We had Barrie and Owen Sound, but we also had a squadron, as it was then, because we were Armoured Corps, in Midland, and that was closed down. So it's been a constant sort of contraction.
It very much so. In fact, today we have just 2 armories. One in the county seat of the 2 counties that the regiment's in. So in Owen Sound in Grey County, and in Barrie and Simcoe County. All the other armories are either gone, reused, or in some cases, the one in Clarksburg, you never know it was there. It's a woods now.
So, but during the First World War, there were soldiers in just about every large-sized community in this county.
In fact, the communities competed to get a battalion of the Canadian Expeditionary Force garrisoned in their community before they went overseas. It was, I guess, a badge of honor or something.
A source of civic pride.
Absolutely.
And as I said, one of the things that I always find interesting is the way in which the soldiers were involved in the life of the community. They were given banquets, they took part in hockey tournaments. In fact, we can even find today who won the games and what the score was.
Exactly.
All right, so shall we go inside and have a look at some of the history that this building contains?
For sure.
All right, let's go in. So John, this building holds a lot of memories for both of us, our whole careers, our whole lifetimes, but it was so much more before that. Could you just have a look around here and tell us what this building is and what would go on in here? What was this building used for, and how was it used in 1916?
Well, I think if you look at 1916 and you look at 2016, 100 years later, the usages are very, very similar. And an easy way to look at an armory is like a ship. It's self-contained. It has everything in it. So this is a training area, being the drill floor. So drill is taught on this floor. Basic marksmanship has been taught on this floor. It's been used for accommodation. We have wonderful photos from 1915-16 of wooden bunks set up on this floor for B Company and of the 157th, as well as I think the 76th Battalion, who actually lived in here. And you can contrast those to modern pictures with the troops living on cots here before deploying on a weekend exercise. We even have pictures of the United States Marine Corps unit on this floor training with us. So as we look around the building itself, so if we look, this is the east side of the building. So the top floor are the two messes. So the officers' mess is up to my left. The warrant officers and sergeants' mess is to the right. Below it is the orderly room for the regiment and ops and training. And on the left here is the junior ranks mess, where the privates, corporals, and master corporals, that's their home away from home. The other side of the building, if we look to the west end, is the classroom, and the large one in the upper floor there to my right. And probably every forester that's been since 1915 is trained in that classroom.
That is where I did my first aid class, was right in that room.
And I did too. And it's used, every night of the week now, as it probably was back then. Usage of the building has changed a little bit more on the west end, in that the opposite end to the classroom used to be the caretaker's apartment.
That's right.
It's now regimental headquarters, but if you go up there, the walls are still the same. So there's still the dining room, the living room, the master bedroom, the kitchen, and of course they've been converted to office use and conference rooms since those days. But the caretaker used to live in
He did indeed. When we were doing drill on the floor, he and his family would sometimes be watching us from the balcony from upstairs. Yeah.
For sure. And then also on the west end, on the main floor, there's other classrooms. There used to be the weapons vault. It's since been moved. Recruiting's over there, quartermaster stores. And the basement at the west end used to actually, as you remember, have a .22 rifle range down there, which until days of environmental and breathing all that bad air in has killed it. And now it's actually a computer simulated range, so the soldiers can practice their weapon skills without actually having to go outside, which is kind of cool.
Which is good.
At the other end of the building, it's kind of neat because it shows changes in technology. There used to be 4 large boilers that heated this place with coal, and you can still see the chimneys on either end. I think there's only one being used now, and these huge boilers have been reduced down to a single little unit that now heats the entire building. So all this space that in the past in the basement was devoted to coal and boilers and furnaces is now like cadet offices and additional storage and stuff like that in the building.
So and it's green.
And it's very green compared to what it was.
Okay, so I see up there on the balcony historical displays, and perhaps maybe we could go up there and have a look at those, and you could talk to us about those. I can remember when we didn't walk across this floor.
Oh yeah.
It was sacred ground.
Yes, it was.
You had to go around the outside,
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
On Rogers TV, we have a reality show like no other. It has a great cast of characters. Some you may have even helped land the role. Each episode has something different. Plans are devised, decisions are made, votes are cast, and money is spent. It's local reality TV that you won't want to miss. And it's exclusive to Rogers cable customers. Catch your municipal council coverage on Rogers TV. Visit rogerstv.com for broadcast details.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
So John, this is almost like a museum. Well, I suppose it is a museum, really, isn't it? What does this represent?
Well, what we've done is the museum is actually broader than just the building, the 1885 Armory on Mulcaster Street, in the fact that we have more exhibits than we can display in that building, and we actually started out displaying them in this one. And so the museum is actually spread between the two armories, and there are artifacts in almost every room, so not just out here on the drill floor and on the balconies, but there are historic photographs hanging all over the place. And the reason being is that the Army's always been about history. We're just passing through. This regiment now is 150 years old, and so it's to you, we pass the torch type thing, and so the troops can see their own history walking around the building. So what we have in this cabinet are a tunic and wedge cap from the the Second World War.
Here.
Gray and Simcoe. And then from the 1970s are pipes and drums that lasted for a few years and now have been reestablished. And it's a Hunting Stewart tartan was our regimental tartan, and Base Borden has adopted the same tartan in reflection of the 157th Simcoe Foresters, so that the two pipe bands can actually parade together and look almost the same because they wear the same tartan. And the different headdresses are across the top from different periods of regimental history. So Tony, in addition to what's in here in the cabinets, that sort of a museum annex, the entire building is a museum. So if you look around on the walls, for example, over here, just completed as part of our 150th anniversary with a lot of blood, sweat, and tear, literally, was the compilation of the war dead from both counties with the regiment. And this was a mystery, especially from World War I. So now there's over 500 names on the Roll of Honor there, and that's been a major piece of archival work to determine those that we lost in the mainly the First World War, because the 4 battalions were broken up for reinforcements.
Mm-hmm.
While the records are wonderfully kept by National Archives, cross-referencing them to Grey County and Simcoe County was very difficult, and that's been done.
But 500 names on those 3 scrolls.
Yes.
That's for the entire history of the regiment. That's 150 years worth of service and sacrifice.
That's right.
500 names.
With 2 beginning in the South African War of 1899 to 1902. So they're the very first war dead, one from each county. So James Finley was from here in Barrie and was one of the very first casualties of the South African War. And his name is right at the top of those panels.
All right. Well, let's have a look around the building and see what else there is that we can see.
So also with the 150th, we built the arch, which is over the doorway, and that was what the troops marched through in Owen Sound for the presentation of new colors by the Governor General.
And I was there. I saw that. Very excellent. Yes.
On the other wall, these panels have been up for a number of years, is the lineage of the regiment over its 150 years, and the coat of arms of Canada, which actually came off the Barrie Post Office when it was being taken down. So we've preserved that, and that's the sort of focal point of the parade square when the drill hall is used as a parade square.
So new recruits coming in to join the Grey and Simcoe Foresters can actually learn about the history of the regiment right in this very building where they do their military training.
Yes, they can walk around the building, they can see the lineage, how the regiment has served Canada in all its different roles since 1866. They can see the battle honors that are emblazoned on both the arch, and below us is the big badge on the floor, and it has the battle honors on either side. And the panel over to the right beside the classroom has the badges of all the regiments and battalions that the Grey and Simcoes perpetuate since 1866.
And the battle honors, of course, now include the new ones that you have received, like from Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yes.
Excellent.
And one missing one being Hill 70, which is taking on greater importance in Canadian history this year as we get into the 100th anniversaries of the First World War.
The troops march into the Sadlin Arena to face the Colts. Battalion versus Colts, Saturday on Rogers TV.
My name is Chase Nicholas. I am a Mi'kmaq hockey player. Growing up, I always remember my family talking about the Mi'kmaq as the creators of the game of hockey. In grade 7, I did research on Mi'kmaq hockey sticks as the first sticks of the NHL. I found a Mi'kmaq hockey stick made in 1917, the same year the NHL was formed. I was surprised to find out the very stick I was holding was made by my great-great-grandfather, Alexander Cope. In 1934, an elder known as Old Joe Cope wrote a letter to the Halifax Herald claiming the Mi'kmaq created hockey. I found out later that I am a direct descendant of Old Joe Cope. There was a time when Mi'kmaq children were torn from their families and not allowed to speak their language, losing their words and stories. But the stories are coming back to us. Stepping on the ice, I take pride knowing the roots of the game of hockey stem from my ancestors in the Mi'kmaq Nation.
So we're coming into the officers' mess of the regiment here, and when I come into a room like this, I honestly don't know where to start because history and tradition is all around me. Tell us something about what's in here, John.
Well, this is the home of the officers away from home, and it's also an annex of the museum in the sense that there's so much history on the walls in here. And it ranges from historic photographs back to the early days of the regiment. In fact, one here that's very rare from Valcartier in 15. There's a project undergoing, a national project to identify all the people in it. We've identified some of the Greys and Simcoes in the photograph. There's others more up to date. The regimental silver's in here. The regimental silver is, as you are aware, is donated by officers usually as they're retiring or leaving the unit. And in some regiments, they get so much of it, they have auctions and have to sell it off. We're the other way. We are missing a great deal of silver that was hidden during the Second World War and never recovered, which is very different than if you go in the officers' mess in Owen Sound, where the 31st Grey silver goes way back into the 1800s. We can't claim that. Although we have some old pieces. That shooting trophy that's like a chalice and it's lined in gold is from the 1880s, I believe.
I remember a very interesting story about that because when I started my career here in the unit, I was also a newspaper reporter. And I remember there was a story in the Barrie Examiner about a lady who had found that in a trunk in her house. It was her father's or her grandfather's or something. And it had gone missing. With a very interesting story. And the story is that the officer who had it in his possession was going over to Europe. He was down at the railway station in Allendale. He was getting ready to get on the train. The train was leaving without him. He ran to get on the train. He slipped and fell under the wheels and was killed. And that trophy remained hidden for half a century until it was discovered. And there it is again, once more on public display. And there are the regimental colors. Perhaps we should go and talk about those since they're brand new this year.
We'll talk about the new ones, and then we'll talk about the other set that goes back to the founding of Borden in 16. So this set of colors, only infantry regiments carry standard colors. They belong to the sovereign in perpetuity. So the one on my right here is the regimental color. It represents a soldier's loyalty to the regiment. It bears the badge of the unit, the motto of the unit if we have one, and we do. Actually, the motto is an honor on its own, almost like a battle honor.
Tenacious and versatile.
The battle honors of the regiment are on the colors, and the most recent being Afghanistan. And it's interesting that when Ottawa designed the new colors, Director of History and Heritage, they put Afghanistan under our original one, which was Northwest Canada 1885. So it's sort of like the alpha and the omega here.
The first and the last are there at the bottom.
And we have just returned from an overseas battlefield tour trip as part of the 150th, and we visited all the battle honors from the First World War, which are the other 6 that are on the colors. There's actually 7 because the Arras is combined, which is Vimy Ridge, 17, and then Arras in 18. There are also new baldricks, which were designed by the then Major Ritterschoffer, now the new commanding officer, which have the regimental baldric or color belt, has all the battalions and regiments that the Grey and Simcoes perpetuate since its beginning, as well as all the battle honors, has the royal cipher of Her Majesty the Queen, the badge of the regiment, and the royal cipher of the Colonel-in-Chief, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal Princess Anne, who gave us permission to put them on on the baldric. So if you look on the other side now, this is the Queen's color, which represents the soldiers' loyalty to the sovereign. And the Queen's baldric, or Queen's color baldric here, again, it has the royal cipher of Her Majesty, the regimental badge, the motto, and the royal cipher of Princess Anne. Behind it is a gift from the outgoing honorary colonel, and signed by Princess Anne is a illuminated scroll that's all hand done. It's an artist that did it professionally, sent over to the palace for signature and sent back. And it tells the story of the regiment and the new colors in the presentation by the Governor General on the 20th of May of this year at Owen Sound.
So there's a tremendous amount of history just in this one case alone.
There is, and in fact, most people don't realize these are not flags, they're colors, and as such, they're consecrated. They're sacred, they're only moved under armed escort, they're only carried by officers, they're never removed from the cabinet without an armed escort to take them out of the mess. So you can see, sitting here are the covers for the tips of the bayonets of the escort, so they don't catch and rip the colors on the points of the bayonets. And of course, above the cabinet is a portrait of Her Majesty.
Right.
So those are the new set. The biggest thing of them is the facings are the correct color now.
Mm-hmm. That is Lincoln green.
Green, yes. And you and I were both on the presentation of colors in '78, which we just retired those colors, and they're the wrong shade of green. So we finally have the correct color for the colors, which is...
And those colors are going to be laid up sometime in the next year, I understand?
In 2017, and they'll be in Owen Sound. They were presented there, so they're going to be laid up in St. George's Church at the foot of the hill down from the armories, and the congregation there very much wants them, so they can display them and tell the story behind them.
Now, when a regiment lays up its colors, it was traditional at one time to always lay them up in a church. That's not the case anymore. They can't be laid up in other places, can they?
They always could be. So you'll see them sometimes in city halls, county council buildings. Traditionally, it's been churches because the architecture tends to lend itself to display.
Big high ceilings.
Big high ceilings, which is why we wanted St. George's in Owen Sound. It's a Gothic church, so it'll display them very nicely. But it's often the architecture helps as much as anything.
And in fact, down in the little rammed earth church in Shanty Bay, there is a set of colors from the Simcoe Foresters, is there not?
That's right. The 1932 Simcoe Forester colors are in St. Thomas Anglican Church in Shanty Bay. And the colors that were from 1908 that were in Collingwood and All Saints, they were reclaimed in 2000 by the regiment, and they're in the Mulcaster Street Armories. And they're in terrible condition, so they're in special conservatory boxes for display, but very much worth looking at.
Okay. So we've talked about what's on the colors, what the colors are made of, when they were presented, where they're laid up, and this kind of thing. What are colors? How would you define them?
Well, it's pretty simple now that they're symbolic, but originally they had a very practical purpose in the fact that it was a rallying point on the battlefield. If you think back to the days of soldiers in straight lines and needing to be able to recognize where they were supposed to be, soldiers rallied on the colors. And each regiment or battalion had its own colors. Distinctive, the soldiers could see them. In fact, the ceremony of trooping of the colors is so soldiers can recognize their own colors and know the rallying point. Now, the last time they were carried in combat was sometime, I think, before the First World War, maybe the early 20th century. And since then, they're no longer allowed to be taken into theater. They're deposited in safekeeping or kept in the rear areas of the unit while it's deployed. But initially, a very practical purpose. Today, it's very symbolic and represents before and the future and now.
So that's the real meaning of the expression "rally to the colors."
It's exactly where it comes from.
From battlefield.
Battlefield.
Yeah. Hang on. All right. Well, we've been talking about First World War. These are modern. There's another set of colors over here that are very meaningful and very historic.
This, from a community point of view, this stand of colors is probably one of the best kept secrets in the county, in that the 157th Battalion Simcoe Foresters, which is credited with building Camp Borden in the spring of 1916, so we claim to be the founding unit of Borden, they did receive colors before they went overseas. They got these in October of 1916, and after the war they were laid up in St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church here in Barrie, and then when it was in architectural distress many years ago, I believe it was in the early 70s, it may have been even the late 60s before the church was fixed, They were given to the Simcoe County Archives and then to the Simcoe County Museum, and then they were returned to the regiment. So that's why they're back where they started, and here they are, and they're in excellent condition. While it looks like they're faded, they actually aren't. They have a very fine white mesh on them that someone's put on at great cost. It's a conservatory measure, and that protects them. So they're in actually much better condition than, let's say, the 1908 colors that are down in the at the Mulcaster Street Armories, which are in terrible condition. These are good enough to carry today.
And they'll probably still be here in another 100 years.
I hope so.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Minjikning, Rama First Nation, a member of the Three Fires Confederacy, which includes the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe people. We honor them for having lived here and cared for this land from time immemorial. We recognize the many contributions that the original people have made and continue to make to this region. We appreciate the opportunity to live, work, and play in this beautiful place.
If you were to ask the people of Barrie, where's the nearest military unit